You're listening to The Broker's Terminal, a Mass Effect podcast. Hello.
Hello.
I feel like maybe that was deceptively cheery, given given the
Maybe we're
conversation.
just trying to overcompensate because we know it's coming, and you guys are gonna find out shortly.
Sure. Um, if we want to start off with like something not as depressing, I
Mm.
can briefly 5 seconds talk about how I've restarted Mass Effect 1.
Yes, please do.
I've restarted Mass Effect 1 and remade my main character, my OG Shepherd, to her now new perfect form. A little bit thicker face, a scar,
Mm.
different lips to make her look like she's not all the time. Because
Not pouty. She
the
doesn't have the
OG
pouty
Shepherd
duck
looked
lips.
she looked really just unhappy all the time.
Ah,
And this one naturally she has a little curl of the lips, which is I think more accurate of what I would go for. And the biggest news is I've played the entire thing so far, mouse and keyboard.
oh wow,
Oh,
you're moving up in the
I
world.
am maturing. Who am I?
You're becoming an
Oh
M&K
my
gamer
god.
at the.
I also have made it my vow to land on every landable planet, which I've never
Oh,
done.
you should get a written list.
I should. I also recently accidentally thought I was supposed to kill a bunch of in this one they're monkeys, but pyjacks.
Mm.
And I shot all of them, and Liara and Tally yelled at me. The voice line was, "Wow, that was overkill, wasn't it?" And that was from Tally. And then Liara said, "This is why humans have such a violent reputation." And I was like, "Oh my god!" I was like, "I guess I'm
Wow,
supposed to get out and talk to the
it's
monkeys."
they said no poaching.
Exactly. But anyway, it's been very enjoyable.
Good, good.
So
I've been seeing you kind of post here and there, so I feel like Mass Effect 1 truly hits the nostalgia button for me. I just feel very comfortable playing that game, and it's really nice to that with the Legendary Edition, they really brought it up to snuff with the other 2 games in terms of graphics and some of the UI adjustments they made and gameplay adjustments, but it still, to me, feels like a more polished Mass Effect 1. um, you know, a lot has changed since 2007 and before, so it was nice to kind of feel still, even with the Legendary Edition, to come home to that. So I
yeah,
definitely feel ya.
it has been a joy. I've just been like vibing out in my own space, saving Liara, going on to other planets. I'm about to do Pharos.
Mm.
It's great.
Have you ever done an Insanity playthrough
I
on
will
Mass
never
Effect 1?
do an
Ah.
insanity playthrough. Uh, I'm someone's mother, Lexie. I don't have time for that.
Oh,
So,
I know, I know.
no, I'm just kidding. I just like that line. But yeah, no, I am very impressed with people who do insanity playthroughs. So kudos to you guys. Pour one out for my insanity playthrough. Um, Other people we're going to be pouring one out for. Is that too soon?
Ooh.
Is going to be this episode is going to talk a lot about some industry. Um, what do I call it? Layoffs. Layoffs.
Yeah, layoffs.
And then we'll talk a little bit about EA, obviously more closely. But some key January 2024 layoffs included Riot,
And Unity software.
Unity Software, Microsoft, have Twitch, which I remember when that one happened, and Twitter was, or X, whatever the hell it's called, was ablaze. That was pretty shocking for folks.
Even Discord.
Discord, yep. Um, Lexi's Behavior Interactive.
They makers of Dead by Daylight, based out of Montreal.
Um, and I'm looking at the list, and those are the big ones that
Mhm.
call out to me.
And of course, Sony in February.
Yeah. That also includes Gorilla, which people were pretty surprised Gorilla got hit by that, especially with the success of the Horizon games. Um, I feel like there was another one on this list that I can't remember, but obviously EA is going to stand out to us here at Broker's
Most
Terminal.
recently too.
Yeah. I also reflect on towards the end of last year when Bungie was hit by layoffs, which yes, I talked about. Oh, I should plug my my little Liara armor purchase YouTube video. But obviously, they collabed now with EA and
Mhm.
BioWare, so um, just a lot of layoffs in the gaming industry, and to think, we'll say 2020, obviously at the start of the pandemic, when
Mhm.
we saw such a boom in
Mhm.
content creation and like just the need for more people in the gaming industry, and now like how the turns have tabled.
Yeah, I think I saw someone discussing this, but it's come to the point now where I think, and not to say that people losing their jobs isn't awful and their livelihoods and so on. I'm not saying that, but I think yeah, we had such a boom in that specific industry, and now when things have, not necessarily become fully back to what they were pre 2020 in the pandemic, but they've come to a point now where they may have had too much staff in different departments in different ways and have felt the need to let go. I mean, we always know these corporations, their goal is to make money. That's part of partaking in the capitalist life we lead. But at this point, it's kind of unfortunate that people who are getting to obviously work in an industry that they very much enjoy and get to be creative and making these big games are losing out. And so it's kind of like, how do they balance these decisions with the happiness of employees and so on and so forth? It's tough, and on one hand, it's like I can see why these companies are doing it, and getting rid of that original surplus and moving back to sort of those pre 2020 numbers. Um, and I personally kind of had that experience on a much smaller scale on a contract job when I worked for the government, um, a specific branch in which
I'm
I
from
got hired
Ontario.
on from Ontario. Um, oh, my customer service voice. Anyway,
Mm,
she was a legend. Um,
rip.
but I worked telecommunications, doing COVID contact tracing in partnership with the public health unit, and got hired to tell people that they were exposed to COVID, and at that point had to isolate for 2 whole weeks. And checking in on people, making sure they didn't have symptoms, and et cetera, and giving them resources. And then, for a while, I was on regular other jobs for that government branch, and then even before the end of my contract was up, they were like, "Sorry, you gotta, we let you go." And obviously, that's a different scenario than someone who's had a full time guarantee position, because when you're on contract, those things can happen, and they're legally allowed to do it. But it's kind of that nature of taking on too many people for a certain thing, and then having to let them go at some point. But it seems to be this kind of, to the outside world, it's very much a demeaning sort of feeling when all of these companies are just truly letting all of these creative folks go. And now it's like, even if these people get let go from one company, they're not necessarily going to get hired by another company at this point either. So it's leaving a lot of people um, up shit's creek without a paddle, so
Yeah,
to speak.
I do agree that um, as cold hearted as it does sound, business is business, and I think many of us who aren't in the gaming industry, obviously, I know, and I have both spent time in content creation, regardless of how big or small our audience is. So we've gotten like a taste of it, but business is business. And, we're very attached to these games. And so when something like this happens, it's natural that we're going to respond kind of emotionally, like, oh, what does that mean for my franchise? What does that mean
Hmm.
for this? And we can a little bit forget that it's impacting people's lives. But those people know. I mean, they know that same. I mean, that business is business, but it definitely is an interesting way of looking at the industry and what that means and how that impacts. And I hope that all of those people are able to find of course, some sort of employment, but also some sort
Hmm.
of meaningful employment. Because
Hmm.
if they were talented enough to be hired at the level of Microsoft and EA and Bungie, then obviously they are skilled in their field, and hopefully they can find something comparable.
Oh, absolutely. And I think, it's interesting because we have touched on this before when like notable writers have left the BioWare team,
Right?
over the years. And especially in more recent times, which we've talked about on past episodes. And it's kind of interesting, yeah, when a writer or director, like creative director, or somebody in that kind of role leaves, we're very much speculative of, oh, how is that going to impact our game, like the future, Mass Effect next. Um, etc. And it's kind of interesting to see the difference and not just us, but I mean people in general, how they view like a notable writer, notable creative for that team leaves versus um, these people, the hundreds and even thousands of people that are just kind of generic across the board of different roles and different jobs that still contribute just as much to making the game. You have to have the people who program and create the actual gameplay and the game itself, um, along with the people who write it and direct it. So I think that that's always an interesting kind of perspective, and something that stands out to me is just how, people who are attached in a fandom to a game series and how they treat that. And,
Sure.
obviously we kind of have more, we have the names of people, we have the, people who are a little more prominent on socials or things like that. But it's always just interesting to see how that kind of balances out.
Yeah, and I'm looking at this article that you sent
Hmm.
about EA laying off, its workforce, and in regards to you talking about how we respond to is my game going to be impacted, etc. One of the quotes is, "We are also sunsetting games and moving away from development of future licensed IP we do not believe will be successful." And that's, another piece of it. It's not even just layoffs, right? There's
Hmm.
EA specifically, and I'm even trying to reflect on if some of the other bigger um, uh, gaming studios had made a similar announcement. But this one I think stood out to me as like they cut a few projects that people were keeping their eyes on. I know there was like an unnamed, what was rumored to be a Mandalorian game, a Star Wars game,
Mm.
axed. I think there's a couple other ones that people were like, "Whoa!" I guess that's the end of that. And I'm not really surprised that none of that. There was no Dragon Age talk. There was no Mass Effect
Hmm.
talk. But I
Well,
certainly
those are BioWare's big sellers.
sure,
That would keep that. If those don't do well, I don't think BioWare will make it out of on the other side. To be honest.
sure. But I think when I saw EA, I was a little bit of like, I I agree with you, and I also think Mass Effect could be one of those that's like we really just don't need it.
Hmm. I mean, EA has had a history of amalgamating, or just simply getting rid of smaller studios that they were the parent studio of. Pandemic Studios comes to mind for me, which they made one of my favorite little like. They're kind of crappy, but I still like playing them game series, which was the Mercenaries series. But they had some other games as well. I'm just quickly looking. Starting back in '99 with Battlezone 2 Combat Commander to they did Star Wars: The Clone Wars in 2002. Um, and Destroy All Humans, which is a very popular game.
Mm.
Um, up until 2009 when they were shut down by EA. And so um And at that point, they had had 3 games that got canceled, one of which was the 3rd Mercenaries game that was in production at the time, and a Batman: The Dark Knight game.
Mm-hmm.
So, that's just one example, but there's been numerous, studios in the past that yeah, every game developer EA has shut down.
Yeah.
There's 14 on this list. Let's see. Westwood Studios, New FX, Bullfrog Productions, Playfish, Origin Systems, Phenomic Game Development, Black Box Games, Victory Games, Mythic Entertainment, DreamWorks Interactive, um, EA Salt Lake, Maxis Software, which was the creator of SimCity, um, Visceral Games, and of course Pandemic Studios. So, this is not a new trend in that regard. So it's kind of it makes me wonder if with they're saying that they're sunsetting certain games that if they have any other studios that are under them like BioWare, what they're at the risk of doing to them in the near future.
Yeah,
And that is kind of concerning.
for sure. I do agree. I think that there's benefit to keeping BioWare around, especially to see how Dragon Age does, because that's
Mhm.
sooner than later. I'm still in the camp, and I hate to even say this because I would really like another Mass Effect game, but I'm still in the camp of like if Mass Effect, or excuse me, if Dragon Age bombs, I don't think Mass Effect is gonna leave the ground.
If Dragon Age bombs, then I think BioWare is done.
100%.
At the moment, EA certainly has their main IPs, but with the amount of time that's gone on between Inquisition, which was what
20
2017,
2014.
24. Oh my god, okay.
It's been
So
10
it's been
years.
10 years. And that's not to say that some of these games and their projects didn't get delayed, probably because of the pandemic shutdowns. But, was Andromeda 2017?
Yes.
Okay, sorry. I get those two mixed up. That was such an interesting time for games.
Well,
Um,
Mass Effect Andromeda was Inquisition in space, so
yeah, basically. So, at this point, if Dragon Age, the next Dragon Age Dreadwolf doesn't succeed as well, then I would find it hard to believe if BioWare could keep afloat because EA will see them as unsuccessful and just cut their losses and that's it.
I really would like to be wrong about that, but
Oh,
I just,
100%.
I don't, even if Dreadwolf releases at the end of the year, so uh, um, Inquisition came out November 18th, 2014.
Mhm.
So I'm thinking like, oh, it'd be kind of cool if they try and release it like at
Around
the
the
10
same
year
time.
anniversary.
Yeah.
I don't think there's that much work that's gone into Mass Effect 5, so it wouldn't be very hard to be like, 6 months after the release of Dragon Age to be like,
Mhm.
never mind,
Yeah.
you know? So,
Yeah, and yeah, I remember. Yeah, I remember when Inquisition came out because I sped run it with a male Inquisitor just to romance Cassandra, and it was right before my exams in undergrad at that point
there,
for
yeah,
winter.
that's
So,
that's right then, for
oh
sure.
yeah. So yeah, it's hard to say because so far for Dragon Age, all we've gotten is like supposedly some alpha footage, and then there was that teaser trailer for the trailer. There was a teaser for the upcoming trailer, which I think it was June or July?
Yeah, I think in the summer
It
they're
was
gonna
a summer.
release a
It's yeah,
trailer.
maybe it said summer
I'm
2024.
I don't know, I'm feeling good about a summer trailer for a November 2024 release
Yeah,
to celebrate the 10 years. Rachel's feeling good about it. It's not that hard of a guess, but I'm gonna feel good about it.
I hope so because
So
it would be about damn
yeah,
time.
I would buy it. I'd play it. I want to see Josie again. No big deal. Um, but yeah, I'm these kinds of news reports are not something I spend a lot of time looking at like I do other kinds of
Mhm.
gaming news. But when I saw the EA one, I was like, all right. First of all, good podcast up. Second of all, um, this is a lot. I mean, this
Yeah.
over the past 6 months, the past year. I do still think that some of it is, as we talked about, sort of like an increase in staff because of just the way that we experienced the pandemic. So again, it's reasonable, like it, but it's reasonable that
Mhm.
as things return back to normal, for
Mhm.
those listening audio only, there were air quotes. Um, it does make sense that companies would have to go back to their original or close to their original size, but it sucks regardless. This is people's lives.
Yeah, and I was just reading the tail end of that CNBC article, but they are looking, to focus more on their existing game franchises, attracting large online audiences, including Apex Legends, of course, Battlefield, EA Sports, Madden NFL, and of course The Sims. The Sims is probably one of their more successful IPs, considering they are still releasing. like downloadable content, despite the fact that The Sims 4 originally came out in 2014. We have had 10 years of gameplay expansions, game packs, um, and stuff packs that are way too overpriced, but um, but people keep buying them, so they're gonna keep making them, even though it breaks their. I feel like they got rid of their quality control people for The Sims because every update breaks things. Um, and of course, Apex, and to speak to Apex as a former Apex player, the move to, I mean, it was always free to play, but the move to their monetization model for cosmetics and for their heirloom system, which, I mean, at the end of the day, it's $150 or maybe, okay, sorry, that's Canadian. So like $120 USD fancy item, more or less, with some fancy things that you're paying for. And yes, I have one I didn't pay for, and I also have more heirloom shards to wait when they finally release my last mains heirloom someday. I got them for free in a box, but you know, uh, they had a crossover event with Final Fantasy recently, and charged double what they normally would have for an heirloom event, and people still paid for it, even though it was like closer to $300 for the whole thing. So it makes sense that they're gonna work on their absolute cash cow systems.
Sure.
To make up that money because they have these games that are for free and are maintained by staff, obviously. But and Respawn is the studio responsible for Apex specifically. But I think Apex is very successful and it has a professional league and everything. But um, that makes sense that they're gonna just focus on that and Sims, and I can't really speak to Battlefield or EA or Madden, but or sorry, not EA, but like EA Sports. But those, sports games have always been popular,
Yeah.
especially among like male gamers, in groups and such. But not that's not to say that other women don't. I have never heard of a girl play Madden, but
I've played Madden.
yeah,
Not the new Maddens, but
yeah.
have played
But,
Madden.
like, there's
Not
dudes
religiously.
who
Yeah,
will
yeah, for
literally
sure.
buy every game every year
Yeah.
that comes out because
My,
it's the football game.
my husband's an NHL every
Yeah.
year kind of guy.
I think the last NHL game I played was NHL 2004.
I remember one year my husband was talking to one of his friends, and his friend said, "The jerseys ripple in the wind in the new game." And I was like, "Is that the only change? Because I don't know if I could justify $60 for a rippling jersey."
Right?
But it did look really good. And there was a
Hmm.
mascot 3v3.
A mascot 3v3.
Yeah.
How far times have changed. I put a horrendous amount of hours into NHL 2004 because that was when I was really obsessed with the Toronto Maple Leafs as a kid. And I would always play as do the manager career
Yeah.
where you manage the team.
Mm.
Um, and also, I'm not gonna lie, NHL 2004 had a really good soundtrack.
Oh, I'm sure
Like
it did.
Bowling for Soup
Ooh,
and Simple Plan. Oh yeah,
give me
there
that.
was there was some top hits at that time. Staple part of my childhood. But, people do, and I'm not obviously saying anything bad about those games. They're fun.
Yeah, it's just right.
So, but yeah, paying full price for the
Ripley.
every year for
Yeah,
Ripley jerseys and
yeah,
slightly different player pool is everyone, their prerogative,
yeah,
not for me.
yeah.
But if that's what they think is going to be successful, then they're going to keep churning them out.
Business is
Is
business.
business.
Um, well, we wanted to end on kind of a cool, positive note.
Mhm.
And that is for those of you who are watching up on your screen right now, which is Mass Effect, the board game,
The
um,
board game.
which was, oh no, I lost, which was announced, stop it, today. Twitter's Twitter. Here we go. I wanted to have the tweet open. I guess it's being published by a company called, is it Modifius?
Modifius,
Modifius?
which is
Is
a
it?
UK tabletop games publisher.
Yep.
So,
They have featured Fallout, Elder Scrolls, Star Trek, Dune, Dreams of Machines, Spectre, Achung, Cthulhu, and more. Um, I'm noticing like our mutual, the people who I follow who follow them,
mhm,
and I think a few of them followed them today, seeing like
probably.
our friends Emily and Adventum. But no shame because I followed them today. Um,
Yeah, I just did right now.
and it looks pretty great. So for those of you who can see the art,
Yeah, there's
shout out
a
to these people for putting Fem Shep
mhm,
on there.
as
Girls
much as
rule,
it's
boys
default
rule.
ship, but I'll take it. I'll
I
take
mean,
FemShep.
how are they good? It has to be
Although
default.
I will say this artist actually made her face look good, so
We need to start a some sort of game, drinking game. I don't care for every time Lexi says "Uncanny Valley" because I thought you were gonna say it just then and you didn't, but I was prepared for Uncanny Valley.
No, but,
Um,
like, she actually looks proportionate, and they didn't overdo the eye makeup, although she is kinda missing her trademark freckles, I will say.
yeah, we love freckles.
We do
Um,
love freckles. But there's another tweet, that says, "Mass Effect, the board game priority Hagalaz brings the space opera to tabletop later this year." And, there's an article
I
in
will be
GameSpot about
buying
it.
it. Um, Michael Gamble retweeted this, so I mean,
Mhm.
it's
It's a thing.
it's a thing that is happening. Priority Hagalaz. No wonder Liara's face is the biggest. It's a Liara to Sony game.
Yeah, so there is an article, there was an earlier tweet that links an article, and so it says Priority Hagalaz is a co-op game for up to 4 players that features a branching campaign set during the events of Mass Effect 3,
Hmm.
and it adapts to player choice on the fly. Shepard and the team are sent to Hagalaz, where they must investigate a crashed research ship formerly owned by Cerberus before it's destroyed by a massive storm, and while avoiding the horrors within. Players will choose from 6 different characters: Garrus, Liara, Tali, Rex, and both male and female Shepard, with each represented by a 32 millimeter, which is for the Americans, uh, 3.2 centimeters. So that would be about an inch and a half.
Mm, love that.
Anyway, tall plastic miniature figurines. Each character can have their abilities, special attack powers, and gear customized throughout the mission with optional loyalty missions, buffing characters even further if completed. Um, yeah, so this new Mass Effect adventure will be published by Modiphius Entertainment, which has also published the Elder Scrolls V Skyrim adventure game, Fallout the role playing game. It was designed by Calvin Wong and Eric Lang, with the latter's credits including Marvel United and Bloodborne, the board game. It will launch in 2024, both in game stores and online, with pre orders opening up as the launch date approaches.
This is a day one buy
Oh,
for
100%.
Rachel.
100%.
100%. Ooh,
That's a
I don't have
that's a
anyone to play
collector's
it
item.
with, but
No, neither do I. But that's gotta,
damn, I wonder, do they make digital editions? Because
hmm.
that's a Discord party.
Discord party. I mean, also too, if some DMs will have a map that they set their camera on,
Oh,
you could also
you're
set
right.
up the
I
board
got an
game and
extra
then
cam.
just move people around as you play. I
I
would
don't.
play it with you.
Okay, I do.
Unfortunately, my girl Ashley isn't in
Isn't
it,
there?
but
Yeah, I was just about to say, for anyone, I'm looking in the camera for this. For anyone who plays with me, I am Liara to Sony.
this is gonna be like whenever people play Monopoly and they're very attached
I'm
to
the
like,
the
I'm
thimble.
the dog.
I
It's
always
like,
play as the thimble because no one wants the thimble.
okay. I had to fight with my family to play the dog, and then if I couldn't get the dog, I was often the boot, I think.
Das Boot.
Das Boot.
But yeah, I
'Cause
thought
I
that,
never had to fight with my brother though. He always wanted the car, so
yeah, easy. Yeah, I was
easy.
always the thimble because then I didn't have to think about it. Um, yeah, that was pretty exciting to see on the old timeline today.
Mhm.
So yeah,
It'll be interesting, and I know some people were very much investigating the art very up close and personal. I mean, I think we're at the point now where, um, we're a little desperate for content because, I'm not gonna I've long lost the tweet now, but people were commenting like, why does Garrus have like the synthesis green? And if you zoom in on the collar a little bit, there seems to be a little bit of it. And I said to Rachel before we started, I think it's just because, you know, um,
I
this
th-
artist was probably given some screenshots as references, and maybe one of them included from a synthesis ending to get, Garrus front on, and it probably just had a little bit of the green there.
artistic,
Artistic
liberties.
liberties,
And
you
also,
know
the plot takes place during Mass Effect 3, so
yeah,
there's no canon end in this
no,
board game that's going to impact the board game at all.
no. And I
Just
just
enjoy
realized
things, people.
just I just realized that the far right of the group is just Liara Tissoni's chest. That took me a second
Whoa,
because I
whoa.
I kind of realized that it wasn't
No.
just her disembodied head at the top, it is connected to her neck and chest. It took me a second because of the way that Tally's
I
positioned,
didn't notice it either. Thought it
but
was just her head.
I was, like, looking at Tally, and then I was like, "Wait, what is that? Is that part of the ship?" And then I was like, "Wait, no, that's just
If
Liara's boobs."
if we're gonna if we're gonna pick anything here, Lexi's talking about boobs. You
I
guys weren't
know.
here for the pre-roll
Oh,
conversation.
no.
Um, I if we're gonna pick anything apart, it's that Liara doesn't look like Liara.
She There's some artistic liberties about her nose,
Yeah,
definitely.
it's a,
But I mean, he took some artistic liberties with Shepard and no freckles. So you know what?
yeah. You're right.
And Rex.
I'm
I don't
just.
think the back of Rex's head is brown. I think it was all red, wasn't it?
I don't remember,
Yeah.
but I should know because I'm playing Mass Effect One as we speak, but I never take Rex with me ever.
Yeah,
Um,
no, that's fair. But yeah, people are, I think, a
just
little
enjoy.
bored and overanalyzing because we have no new
No,
content
I
until
get
next
it.
Gen
I
7
get it.
day.
When we take what we can get, we're gonna just jump in and dig deeper.
Mm.
And on that note, I hope you guys have a great rest of whatever it is that you're doing after this. And when in doubt, dig deeper. If you liked this podcast, please rate, like, and comment on your platform of choice. To show further support, you can follow us on Twitch, Twitter, and subscribe to our channels on YouTube. Everything discussed today will be archived on the broker's terminal. After all of the Galaxy secrets are at the Shadow Broker's fingertips.